Hey, you're listening to the She Did That podcast, where we highlight women of color who embody leadership, empowerment, and commitment to their community through entrepreneurship and social action. Here's where ferocity, fun, and facts all live in harmony. So stay tuned because, again, you're listening to the She Did That podcast. Hello, welcome to She Did That, the podcast that highlights women of color who are focused on social action, entrepreneurship, higher education, all things awesome for women of color. I would like to personally introduce, which is in the highest of honors, President Dr. Yves Salomon-Fernández. I'm so happy to have you here with us. This really makes me happy because I met you and I was so just in awe of your story. And the fact that you took some time out of your schedule to talk to me means a lot to me, and I'm sure it'll mean a lot to our audience. So thank you for joining us here today. I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself. I would like to just say that she is the president of Greenfield Community College, okay? We have higher education honchos here.
And it is so nice to be with you, Nikai. You're great. You're so wonderful. I was so impressed when I met you also. You just have a way about you. You have a confidence, and you have an intellect. You walk into a room and you own that room, and the way that you own that stage that evening, honoring so many accomplished women. I looked at you and I thought, this is my little sister. And I look forward to the day when I get to introduce you on the stage and on many stages. You're incredible, and our generation, the next generation, I know our society's in great hands because of you. So thank you for studying this, and I like your spirit of entrepreneurialism and everything that you're doing. You're rocking it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So yeah, let's get into it. If you could just give me a little bit about your background. I know that you are from Haiti.
That's right.
Yes, just like let's walk us through. How did we get to be Dr. President Yves?
Well, I always say the titles don't define me, but I have worked hard for them, and I've had a lot of people who supported me to get here. So I stand on the shoulders of many, and I'm so grateful to all of those who helped me to get here, and most of, who had nothing to gain from my success. So I'm so grateful for that. So as you know, I came to the US when I was 12 from Haiti. And in many ways, my experiences living in Haiti really shaped who I am, who I became, my passions, my values, and just my commitment to social justice and economic justice and, sustainability, etc. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, but in many ways, we are so much stronger in terms of spirit, in terms of our grit, in terms of courage. We're also the first Black republic in the world. So, when you have that in you, when you know that your ancestors defeated Napoleon's army, there's something about that adds, just a little bit more strength to your spine. So, I'm very proud of my heritage. I came here when I was 12, and we lived in Dorchester, in a very poor part of Dorchester. And I immediately became an adult, and suddenly I was responsible for going to the laundromat, doing everybody's laundry, making sure my siblings were fed, making sure my parents were fed, waking up super early in the morning. I'm the oldest of 7, so suddenly I had all of these responsibilities, and in a country that I didn't know, a different culture, different language, and at the same time I was learning how to speak English and learning how to speak Spanish at the same time. So it definitely was a huge transition, and growing up in a poor neighborhood in the US was certainly a sort of cognitive dissonance from the movies and everything that I had seen. It was not the United States of America that I had seen on television. And so it was, all of a sudden, oh my goodness, there's poverty here. And I was really fortunate to get into Boston Latin School. I went to Boston Latin School, which is one of the most prestigious schools in the country. It's a public school, an exam school. And there I got to see how middle-class America and upper middle-class America and upper middle white class, upper white middle-class America lives. And it was, such a contrast from the neighborhood where I lived. And back then and still now, there were few proportions of students of color and Black students specifically at BLS. And so, so as a minority within a minority, and of course, not speaking English well. So it was like a minority and top of a minority and being a foreigner and all of that. But, those experiences, they shape you. And, we learn to persevere through them. And in many ways, they are many assets that we bring to our work. We bring to anything that we engage in. So I look at those not as deficits, but as assets that have really helped me grow along my journey and appreciate my journey so much more.
Okay. So I would love to know when you were, going through high school and applying to college, and of course, going through the motions of working and making sure that everyone is fed and being the adult that you had to be at such a young age, what got you through those moments? What were you telling yourself? What would you do to kind of replenish your energy? How did you keep going?
I think it was, looking forward. And I want to say that I didn't always look forward. So I know I've shared this with a couple of people, but for a very long time in my life, I was suicidal. And it took a while to get through that phase. And in many ways, I sort of decided one day I wanted to live and broke through that. And from that point on, I just became a really hopeful person. And I think I was also, I had enough people who believed in me. And it's one of the reasons I love education. I love teachers because overall my teachers and my professors all believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. They would push me. And I think it's one of the reasons why I also came to education, to higher education. And I think also, when you come from a place like Haiti, you've seen a level of poverty that, no matter how bad it is in the US or how bad it was for me in the US as an immigrant, that it could get better, and I think in that sense, actually, Boston Latin School gave me a lot of social capital and also showed me how the other side lives. So, and I had a couple of friends, didn't have a ton of friends in high school. I was a geek, I was weird, I was introverted and wasn't very confident. I didn't speak English very well. I did well in school, but mostly kept to myself. But, I watched a lot, I observed a lot and got to see, okay, I should do this, I should do that. And I wasn't afraid to ask people too, and I didn't know something. And yeah. And so what got me through was keeping hope alive, was knowing that, yes, I could do better. And yes, I had to work hard. And I think it's one of those immigrant values. We work really hard because, the alternative in your country would be country of birth, that is, would be a lot worse than it is in your chosen country here in the US. So I'd say just hope, knowing that things would get better. And if I worked hard, they could get better. And I was also very lucky. So I don't want to just say that, everybody just work hard and gets better. Of course, there are hurdles. And that's some of what I work in my profession and in my personal life to try to dismantle for folks who don't have it easy and who have it much harder than I did. But keeping hope alive, and music was also a very big part. Very, very big, and continues to be very big part of my life.
Oh, really? What type of music do you like to listen to?
I listen to everything. I have a very eclectic taste in music. So Little known fact, I used to sing opera in high school.
Wow.
Yes, girl. I used to sing opera. I know, unbelievable. I liked a lot of ballads also when I was in my teens, listened to a lot of romance stories, romance music songs, even though I didn't understand the words. And I would also say in my late 30s, I discovered, no, late, in my early 30s, I discovered reggaeton. And in my late 30s, I discovered rap. And now I listen to everything from opera, classical music, reggaeton, um, rap, hip hop, top 40. I love music. And international music from all over, so I listen to Zouk, I listen to bachata, yeah. And I also dance, by the way. So I do ballroom dancing, Latin dancing. So I love to listen to dance music too. And I dance in my car. Like,
Ah,
I'm that crazy person you're driving next to who's like bopping along. Yeah, that would be me.
that
It's
is
my
so,
outlet.
that's so awesome. And it's so nice to know that you have an outlet. Like there's something that like you kind of almost hold sacred. Your music, your dance, like that is where you can truly be you. You know,
Yes,
yeah, it's just one of those spaces where you can feel free and just feel alive.
yes,
So much of music gives you hope, and it also fosters this community because you know that there are other people who like to listen to the same music you do or likes to do the same dance that you do. Especially with Latin dancing, you have a community, a crew, or even just a partner, which is so awesome.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And no carnival this year, no
Oh,
soca and no Caribbean festival, no
don't
Puerto
get me
Rican
started.
festival. So yeah, yeah, that's hard. That's hard. I gotta say it hurts a little bit.
It hurts my
Um,
heart so much. I love my soca music. I love my Afro beats. Like
yes,
it is
yes,
just the
yes,
vibe.
yes, girl.
It is my everything. And again, another just community-based music. It's one of those things that you just know you're going to feel good because you're going to feel good with other people, which
Exactly.
you can't trade for the world. And I love that. I love that.
It's so
Um,
freeing.
it's so freeing. And I actually want to kind of go back to your point about having teachers and people who believed in you in those moments that you didn't necessarily believe in yourself. Um, and I am a strong believer in, like, it takes a village to raise a
Hmm.
child and to keep you going.
Hmm.
I would love to know what is the best or worst advice that you ever received, and why was it that? Why was it the best or the worst?
Ooh, okay. All right. I would say the worst advice was interesting. So when I was near graduating from undergrad from UMass Boston, my alma mater, um, I was applying to the London School of Economics. And I didn't know that I could get in, but I knew one person who had gotten in from the year before from UMass, and that's how I learned about the school. I'd spent a summer before at Oxford, loved Oxford, and wanted to go back to England. And one of my peers, who was a year ahead of me, who had also been in the honors program, she said, "I got into LSE. I love it. You'd love it." And so I had a professor who was working with me, and he's an anomaly. Professors and teachers have always helped me. And he said, I'm not sure you should apply to LSE. You're not going to get in. We had one person get in. This never happens. Um, you should really think about your backup plan, or maybe take a year off and, not do the grad school thing immediately. And it was so crushing initially. And I remember feeling so depressed and walking away. We had just met, had a coffee in Government Center, actually across the street from City Hall. I remember that, in an Irish restaurant. And it was so crushing. And so I took my stuff and got on the train, got on the red line, got back home. I used to live in Savin Hill back then. And I thought, this is really horrible. But then, I stuck to it and gave it my best. I think that was also a motivator, having him say, you can't do this. And it was, okay, all right, I can do this. I believe I can do this. And sure enough, I got into LSE, and I was very proud of that. So I think that was probably the worst advice that I got, which was, go ahead and give up. Because we had a statistical anomaly who got in, but it doesn't look so good for you. And I would say the best advice isn't a single advice. It's this 84-year-old woman that I know, who's like a grandmother to my daughter and a mother to me. And she has only an elementary school education, but she gives the best advice. She is so loving, she is so sweet, and she is the wisest woman I know. And she comes from Belize. She came to America with nothing but a big, beautiful house in Dorchester, in a neighborhood that's now been gentrified, and all her kids and grandkids and great-grandkids are doing really well. And I just love spending time with her because she has so much wisdom to share. And it's just one of those places that I know going to her home and being around her just centers me, and it brings me so much joy. And to know her journey, having been a domestic, when she came for many, many years, and how she worked really hard to be able to buy that house, and to buy that house in the neighborhood when people told her she doesn't belong there. She shouldn't. Oh, the house is too big for her. And she managed on her meager salary to buy that house. So she's someone for whom I have tremendous respect and immense love. And she gives me the best advice. So I just feel like it's not one thing, it's the corpus, it's everything about her, who she is, her heart, her intellect, her wisdom, her warmth.
Sometimes the best advice goes unsaid. It's actually just who you are as a person, your aura, how you walk the walk and you talk the talk. That is inspiration enough. That's advice enough for someone to kind of follow behind in your footsteps. And just do as you do. Might not be the same career, but how you handle yourself in certain situations, the hard work or the effort that you put into things, that's what makes someone exemplary. That's what makes someone a leader. You don't have to have, like you said, the titles don't define you. The person you are defines you. And I understand that. I can visualize that, and I see that. And you know what? Actually, that takes away my next question, because I was going to ask you what your best advice would be to a young woman, but I mean, you can speak to that if you'd like to, or we can go on to the next question, because I feel like, you are who you are, and like we can just sit there and be in awe, and we can watch. Or you can, if you have anything to say to any of the young women out there who would love to be in your position, what would you say to them?
I would say for them to really harness their strength, to believe in themselves, believe that they are worthy, they are capable, to exercise self-love, to have humility, to not be afraid to ask for help, and to try to find your inner strength and your center. And I try to work on that every day. Find your inner strength, find your center. We're not perfect. We're not always going to get it right. It's a journey, not a destination, and to savor the journey. That's what I'd say.
Awesome. So, and this just piques a question to me. What do you do to practice your inner strength and strengthen your core and, be able to find your center?
Well, I spend a lot of time with my family now, or, I try to spend time every weekend with them and the evenings and cook with my children. And our son is enrolled in a Haitian Creole class, so he's learning Creole, which I'm really proud about. He's fluent in Spanish and he's learning Chinese. And this summer I said, you've got to get closer to your heritage and your ancestors, so you're learning Creole. So he's pretty excited about that. Actually, he likes it. And I try to spend time with my girlfriends. Actually, I don't try; they drag me to spend time with them. And I've now learned not to say no because I always come back rejuvenated. It's always great, and I read a lot, although I really haven't read in the last 5 months. Not at least, to the extent the volume that I normally do. I just started maybe a few weeks ago reading again, but I love to read. And let's see, I'm lucky to have a great spouse. My husband is just so incredible. I wouldn't be here without him, so I'm very, very grateful for that. And and from time to time, I meditate. I'm meditating again, but I wish I could make it more of a practice, more of a lasting practice. Yeah, I'd say if there's one thing I wish I had more discipline around, it's meditating. And whenever I get uncentered, I find myself running back to meditating.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to kind of silence everything that's going on and focus on the task at hand or whatever life is throwing at you in the moment. Um, my question is when the things that you have to focus on, because you have a million things that you have to focus on, being, kind of the leader of the ship. And I know that earlier when we were speaking and you were introducing yourself, you really talked about social action and social change being a huge part of what you do,
Mhm.
or at least how you step into the shoes of the role that you're in, wherever that is. And I would like to know what role does higher education play in social action and social change?
Well, I think higher education by definition is transformative, or it should be transformative, especially for students who are students of color, students for whom college going is not a legacy, who may be the first in their families to go to college, mothers, single mothers, people who are generally disadvantaged and in a rural area also. It's very transformative. Um, and even if college going is a legacy for your family, education is supposed to transform you, to challenge your learned beliefs, values, and to start to understand that there are multiple truths, right? It's not just your truth. There is a single truth, but everyone has their own truth, and to start to see things through other people's eyes, and also to get on a journey for self-development, self-growth, and to me, that's what education is about. It should be transformative regardless of who you are. And for some, it's much more transformative because it also gives them the ability to move up the socioeconomic ladder. And so I approach this work with that sense of purpose. It is my job to maximize my students, because I feel very protective of them, their ability to succeed in life. Especially those who are disadvantaged and those who are historically disadvantaged. So that's what I bring to my work, a very good sense, a very strong sense of purpose and commitment. And higher education is how and where I've chosen to devote my talents and skills and knowledge. And so for me, it's a calling. And some people can engage in the struggle for the rest of their lives, and they're okay if it takes forever, or if it takes a long time to get to see the fruits of their labor. I think in community college, and specifically at GCC, you can see the change in a semester. You can see it in a week. You can see it in one day, having a conversation with the student. And of course, you get to see it in 2 years and 3 years when they eventually graduate. So, so to me, there's that gratification that comes 2 to 3 years down the line. And it's very palpable, and in some ways it's very tangible. And so I believe in that. That's my sense of purpose, and I think that's what higher education should be. And I think those of us who are from disadvantaged groups, we've walked in those students' footsteps, or at least we've walked ahead of them, right? We've had similar journeys, or we've had journeys that have enough in common that we can say, this is what it was like for me, and I want to make it better for the next student, for the next person. So it's not about replicating things so, that, I had it hard, you have to have it hard too, but to say, how can my experience help you, and the understanding that I bring, and the sense of the shared life journey, or the common life journey that we've had, lived experiences, how can I use that to help me be more supportive to my students? And so for me, that's how I see higher education, and I think it ought to be transformative. And we're living in a special time right now. We're living in the middle of significant racial unrest, and that is the result of centuries of of uh, inequalities, and just slavery and everything else, and all of the ways that different marginalized groups, be they racial, be they women, be they LGBTQ groups, that have been disproportionately impacted by our policies or de facto. So it's becoming a moment where higher education has a significant role to play in how we shape the education of adult students as well as the younger generation.
Awesome. Thank you. And just a follow-up clarifying question, I just want to make sure. Um, are you or were you a first generation student when you started your higher education journey?
So my mom only has she dropped out of high school when she was in the 11th grade, but she did go back and got her GED at Roxbury Community College, actually. And my dad has a master's degree. So I am not the first generation overall, but first generation in the US.
Oh, awesome. Okay, just wanted to make sure. And that is an awesome kind of segue into my next question about how you were able to take your life experiences and turn them into your calling, into your purpose, and kind of keep the work going. How did you get there? How do you find your purpose in this world? How do you find that word that speaks to you?
You know, I wanted to be a lot of different things when I was younger. I think, the longest thing was being an ambassador, being a lawyer. I thought I was going to be a lawyer first and an ambassador. And somewhere along the line, I realized that I like numbers, so my degrees are progressively more quantitative. So I studied that as a political science and international relations major, then got my master's in economic history, and really started getting into historical and trend analysis in econ. And then that led to my PhD in statistics and measurement. So it just got curious and curious and curious, more and more curious. And before predictive analytics were a thing, it was, that was what caught my interest. So predictive and explanatory factor analysis, those things really caught my attention. Just measurement, I just sort of found myself gravitated towards answering more complex questions. Like, can we predict who's not going to succeed in school, who's not going to graduate from high school, and what the probability of students graduating from college. So things like that. And in many ways, I consider myself a statistical anomaly. And so I see my purpose as creating more statistical anomalies, students who are predicted not to do well, not to succeed, not to get their high school diploma, not to get their college diploma, not to move several rungs up the socioeconomic ladder, to make sure that we make statistical anomalies out of them, that they go, way up. Yeah, so I think it just kind of was a mix of different things, different disciplines, and curiosity, and wanting to explain things, wanting to predict things, and then saying, oh, okay, well, if we know all of these variables, well, what can we do to change the future? If we know this is what it takes, is there anything that we can do to increase that student's or that person's probability of succeeding? So I think it just sort of emerged, and it wasn't easy, it was challenging, but the more it challenged me, the more I wanted to understand stats better, to understand hierarchical linear models, for instance, psychometrics better, become a better psychometrician, become a better statistician, and also use looking at more holistic evaluation models. So I had this so I came to this place where I embrace both qualitative and quantitative data. And yeah, it's just, and then, being in leadership, I think I'm able to use all of my backgrounds, academic backgrounds and lived experiences, to make a difference. And I'm very fortunate to work at GCC, where I have, colleagues who are as dedicated to the cause, who really want to make a significant difference, and who inspire me. So there are times I get a little tired, or I might be a little hesitant around something, and I have colleagues who are just going to be like, come on, Eve, let's go, we can do this, or push through your fear. And yeah, and we do this in service of our students, in service of our community. And it's just so inspiring to know that we could make a difference in working with our partners, across the spectrum of, private, governmental, nonprofit, and just leaders in the community. And that's inspiring. The work nurtures me. Yeah, and I encourage students to find jobs that nurture them, that, yeah, it's going to be hard, but it uplifts you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Thank you. And we're so grateful for you to come on the show and share your life story and share all of these awesome tidbits with us. Thank you so much. And just know that you are part of the She Did That family, and you're doing awesome things, and nothing but kudos and praises and props to you.
Oh, thank you, Nikai. Well, you did that. You did that, girl. You did that. Oh, I can't wait till this pandemic is over. I can't wait to see you. Yeah, it'll be nice. And please give your mom my best. She is a great role model for you.
I definitely will. Thank you so, so much.
My pleasure. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you too.